Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Reid. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I feel quite privileged to be able to travel away from where I live, which is pretty much exactly on the other side of the planet, to come here to the UAE and to speak to teachers from this country and to have friends from other countries that are also here that have taken part in the Ideas Lab yesterday and proceedings from Kudwa today. And I'm here to talk about my experience with an evolving professional identity and hopefully connect it to some ideas that you could take into your own life as a person and as a professional, and to think about what your career destination could be. My job at home right now is as a district resource teacher. So I'm available to 85 elementary schools, 18 high schools, an adult education program, and a number of alternate learning programs in the school district. When you're one person and you're available to more than 100 different school sites, the demand can be pretty high. And I have to think for myself, if I'm going to go out and support students and colleagues in how they teach career education, that's specifically the subject area that I'm working in, I've got to think about what my own experience has been with an evolving career. So I think a lot about evolving professional identity. If we're going to set our students up for some success where they're seeing a broader world that they can contribute to, we need to help them recognize that the job title they may be pursuing is not necessarily the job that they're going to do. We heard yesterday in the Ideas Lab that we are minds, we are not job titles. We are much, much more than that in education. So I started out as a music teacher. I have a degree in music, I got my credentials in education, and I subscribed 100% that all of me is a music teacher. I never imagined, I never imagined that I would get a phone call from our Ministry of Education offering me a position to work at the ministry. And if there's one thing that I really appreciate about the Ministry of Education in the UAE is that it is very evident that teachers work there, not just bureaucrats who are impacting the system, but they're bringing teachers into the ministry to be a part of conversations there. If I have that wrong, I should find that out. But I believe that that's the case here. And I think it's really wonderful that that conversation is happening. In other countries where teachers are being brought into their ministries of education, we also see that there's a closer relationship between the work that the ministry does and the system that it's doing it for. So I ended up in the Ministry of Education. Then I leave that job and I go to a job where I'm going around our province, in the province of British Columbia, to drive from the southern border to the northern border. Takes about 40 hours to drive. It's gigantic. It's larger than all of the United Kingdom. My province is bigger than California, Oregon, and Washington State combined. And I was then going all over the province supporting teachers in how they would implement and integrate education technology into their classroom. I'm now supporting students and colleagues, providing coaching and support, helping them recognize ways that they could be doing new things or different things in their classroom, always with the idea that they're adding a new approach. They're not taking on a new approach to replace an old one. It's about evolving and expanding. Now, through all of this time in the classroom and going off to the ministry and then into this other ed tech coaching position, I found myself looking back over all of those years and recognizing that the success of that transition for me and that evolving professional identity away from music teacher to professional educator, to someone who's contributing to education across the province and abroad, I recognized that the strength that I carried with me is that I spoke to students the whole time. I brought them along for parts of that journey. Early in my career, I found an opportunity to get involved in a professional association, become part of a network of music teachers across my province, across the country, and around the world. And what I found so exciting was going back to the classroom and talking to students about the experiences that I had just had. I would be away from school maybe 2 or 3 days in one week, and a few weeks later, another couple of days to attend meetings. And students might feel like you've abandoned them, like you've left them behind when you've gone off to have fun. They might think that I'm just off having fun. But I would come home and talk to them about what kind of change we were trying to affect for music education programs across the province and across the country. Talking to them about those experiences led a number of students to suddenly recognize their ability as youth to take on a leadership role, to engage in their community, to engage as a network of youth across our school district and across the province, to be activists in advocating for funding for their programs, expanding their programs, having access to something that they love, something that was central to their identity. So here I am as a teacher through all of these years, and now I'm in a job where I'm going out, and it is my only job to support teachers and students across the whole district. And I carry with me all of those experiences in bringing students along, hearing back from them, and seeing what they're doing. Now, here's the exciting part. Those students that I taught years ago are all now adults. And I look at some of them in the pathways that they've pursued towards music. A few who've pursued careers in law, and one who is specifically pursuing a career in entertainment law because he thinks that the law is something interesting for him, and he loves music, and he wants to put those two things together. So he sees that, yes, he gets a law degree, but now he has to think about what he wants to do with that. When I look back at my experience, I got a music degree and a teaching certificate. I should have just, or could have just chosen the one thing to do with that, go into the classroom and be a music teacher. But I saw a bigger opportunity to start to be a part of networks around the world. I'm really excited that there are other folks here who are Varkey Teacher Ambassadors who have been through the experience as a Global Teacher Prize finalist over the last few years. And there are certainly a number of other teachers here at Kurwa who can talk about their evolving professional identity and how it has reshaped ways that they could see their expertise being applied in ways that 2 or 3 years ago they never imagined. If I look back to September of 2004 when I started my first teaching job, I don't think I ever would have imagined in about 15 years I'll be in the Middle East speaking to a number of teachers from several different countries. That never would have crossed my mind. But as I've allowed my professional identity to evolve and expand and to see new ways to make connections with colleagues and with their students around the world, things get more interesting. So a day in the life for me now, compared to when I was first teaching, is very different. First teaching, I'm at school at 7 a.m. The first class comes in at 7:30, and it's music all day. And at the end of the day, I go home and do this. I just want it to be quiet. Now, I get up early in the morning. I usually find some text messages or Facebook messages from colleagues across parts of Asia or across Europe. And then I go and I support students all day. And at the end of my day, Christian Williams sends me a message or gives me a call and says, "Hey, how you doing? How are things?" And then he shows me that the beach is right across the street from his school. A little bit of a show off, but I love it. Having moments like that where I'm connecting with a whole bunch of teachers in other parts of the world has reminded me that the scope of impact that I can have in education is not limited to my classroom, and it's definitely not limited to my subject area. So I want to close with this. There's a certain reason why on my poster I asked for this color specifically. Many of us will be familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And goal number 4, of course, is quality education. And I asked very specifically for the color of this text to match number 4, to talk about quality education. One of the things that I've reached into, away from music, is being part of something called the Teach SDGs network. I'm a Teach SDGs ambassador. There are a lot of us, and we're from all over the world, and we're really focused on finding ways to take that learning and bring it into everything we do. There's no way that 15 years ago I imagined that when I'm teaching students how to play the trumpet or the drums or the keyboard or singing, that at the same time I would be thinking about how they could be contributing to sustainable communities with the music that they make, or with the way that they learn to work together in a collaborative setting. Now that I'm 15 years in, I have these networks of people that I'm connected to. I will tell you that I feel like I am supported by them. I'm supported by my former students, I'm supported by former colleagues, and certainly by this big cross-section of colleagues around the world. And that is why I think it is so important that we think about who we are today and we imagine who we want to be tomorrow and in a week and in a year, so that we are not the same teacher, we are not the same identity as a professional in a year as we are today. And if you are still that way in a year, give me a call, let's talk, and let's find ways for you to see big opportunities for you to have an impact far beyond your classroom, because there are millions of children around this world and they are looking for someone who is excited to bring them new and interesting experiences for them. Thank you all so much. Shukran.